Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Learn JavaScript using Foundry, or did with Foundry is what I actually call it. So with Foundry. Um, so really quick, just some disclaimers. One is we are running version 10, and we're even running the patch fix or whatever you want to call it after. So build is 284. We've also updated our D&D 5th edition to 202. Some of the actual mods that I had used that we were using in this are not working. However, the most important one still seems to be working fine from what I've seen. So if we go under manage modules and then here under active modules, the ACE library, which is a requirement of the macro editor. So we'll still be able to have the colored syntax and the formatting and stuff like that, and the, what is it called? The suggestions, auto IntelliSense, I think is what it's called. Anyway, so we'll still be able to have those. So, and then the second thing I wanted to talk about is I've had in some of my past videos, and when I gave full disclosure at the very beginning that this is not going to seem like Foundry has anything to do with what we're actually doing, and that more efficiently we could actually be doing this in like Visual Studio Code, and I agree 100%. However, before we can actually jump into understanding the Foundry side of things, we do need to get through some basics. And I decided one thing I wanted to do to help kind of keep it maybe at least RPG themed is, in my past videos I've been using name, age, and stuff like that as examples, and I was thinking maybe I could try and tweak it so that they're more RPG type themed examples to kind of make it seem a little more. But until we get to a stage where we have a deeper understanding of some of the basics and stuff, we won't really be tapping into the Foundry infrastructure as much. Now, I do want to point out, after we're going to work on functions now, and I do want to point out that after this module, I don't know how many it's going to last, but after we do this, I was thinking of maybe doing a video of applying what we've learned using Foundry. So we'll actually use some of the knowledge of the things we've done to get access to those, our core character sheets and stuff like that, and see, how that kind of comes together. So that's my plan. So one thing that isn't in here anymore because it kind of broke is the sidebar macro, which was really nice to have it there, but we can get basically the same thing just by clicking the little folder down here. And also, this is the third time I've recorded this video. The first one I wasn't pleased with. The second one, when it was rendering the video, it crashed, and then I had it recover the video, but there was absolutely no audio with it. So this is lucky 3. So that's why we actually have our E05 functions section here. We're just going to go in here real quick and delete everything we learned in our last video. So with functions, I wanted to talk a little bit about why we have a function, or what's the use of a function, what makes them handy or something like that. And to do that, I was thinking we were going to use a really terrible dice rolling mechanic. So to do this, we're actually going to tap into some more advanced things, and I'm going to give a really brief explanation about them. But don't worry if you don't understand it fully, because we haven't got that far yet. But in order to kind of get a random number and make it be a whole number, we need 2 methods that are part of the math object. And the way we access those, so the first one's called math.random. Oh, I'm in the wrong window. That's my notes. So we have math.random. And what this does is you tell it that I want a number, say, between 1 and 20. For D20, let's just say that. So I forgot the star. So what it's going to do is it actually creates a random number between 0 and 1, and then it times it by 20, and then we get this decimal number. So if we go ahead and let's just console log this. Can I actually do shift parenthesis? Oh, I can. That is beautiful. And then let's just do console, console. So console.log. So what this will actually generate, because we're doing times 20, it's going to give us a number between like I think 0 point something and 19 point something. So if we go ahead and let's go ahead and hit F12, and if we run this, you'll see we got 15.27, 9.09, 4.85. So we get these random numbers. Now, if we didn't actually have the times 20, like I said, it's going to be a number randomly generated between 0 and 1. So here you can see, and the 1 is probably extremely rare. So as you can see, we just got all these numbers. Maybe it's not even 1, maybe it's 0.99, I don't know. So anyway, that's math.random. It will generate a number. If we want to give it a number between 1 and something, what we need to do is times it by our number. However, it's going to be 1 under that number. So like I said, this is going to actually be 19 dot something will be the highest we can get. So in order to beat that, we just simply add 1, and that will now make it not 0 and 19, it will be 1 and 20. So now if we run this, we will actually see, oh whoops, I put that in the wrong spot. Control X. We need to, I'm going to put this in parentheses so it does that first. This is order of operations type of stuff. And then whatever that number is, we're going to add 1 to it. Equals 1. Plus 1. All right, so now if we do this, we'll actually see numbers. Oh, well, we're still going to get decimal numbers, but it will be, if we keep clicking this, we might see a 20 in there, and we shouldn't see any zeros. I'm not seeing a 20, but I'm also not seeing a 0, so that's what we want. So in order to make this so this is actually what maybe a die would roll, we're going to use a second function, and this one is called math.floor. And this basically is a fool, F-L-O-O-R. Math.floor is basically going to round down our total number. So let me just make sure. I think actually this one let me put here, and then I think that's fine. So basically math.floor is going to then take whatever the math.random returns, and it's going to round it down. So now if we run this, we get an error. Hold on, I think I was looking at my parentheses and I think I'm off on one. So math.floor, oh wait, I know why. I don't have this parenthesis, which means I don't have this parenthesis. Although I think I want this plus 1 outside of that, because we're going to do the 1 after we've done our rounding and stuff. Alright, so that should do it. If we do it now, we get 12, 10, we got 2 10s in a row. Seeing if we get a 20 in there. There's a 1, and there's a 20. So as you can see, this is giving us a die roll. Now, this was a huge explanation of that, and hopefully it makes sense, but these type of things are actually very handy to have. So whatever die we want to roll, for example, we have our math.20. Let's say we wanted to do 100. So let's go, whoops, I hit Control X. Control Z. let's say we wanted to do some other ones. So we're going to do a C. I'm just going to paste a bunch in here. Let's do V. Oh, whoa, I screwed up. Enter V, enter V, enter V. Was that like 5? Let's do one more, I guess. I did it again. That's okay. We can just come here this time. All right. So let's say we want to do a D20 roll. We want to do maybe a D100 roll. We want to do another D20 roll. We want to do a D4. And then we want to do maybe a D12. So here's a whole bunch of rolls, and it's going to log all these out to the console, right? So if we clear this and now do it, we should get numbers that are within those ranges. So now if I have a big program and thousands of lines, but every time I want to do a dice roll, I have to say, oh yeah, it's a D20, it's a D100, it's a D20, it's a D4. And this is all throughout the code. Well, this kind of gets monotonous, and kind of like we learned with loops, that, well, since everything is the same here, we can actually use a loop and just change the one component that we need in it. So this is where functions come in. Functions are really good at taking code that is kind of duplicated in various places and putting it in one place. So for example, if we wanted to, and this is still going to be ugly because I'm doing this in a different order, but let's say, we have all this code, and throughout our whole program, we have these individual things just written out like this. We might even have something like this in there saying, just to make it a little more obvious because it's hard to tell what's being rolled, we'd say ROL, rolling a D, and in this case it's a 20. So if I go copy that, Control C and Control V and Control V and Control V, V and there. Then I have changed these, of course, to say 100. This one is a D20, so that's good. This is a D4. This is a D12. And then we have our D20. So if we go look at this, now we can see, there we go. It's nice and easy to tell what we're rolling and what we got. Well, if we want to do this, that's in this example, it's not going to look as nice and seem like it's very nice, but bear with me. But let's say we want to look at a basic function. And we've seen a function quite a bit already, whether you know it or not. If we click close here and we click on our template, right here we have our main function, and then we're calling that function. So, and you'll notice in JavaScript, it doesn't care if we call the function before it's actually declared. When we have this function like that, same function, and then the name of the function, and then any parameters, and then we have the body of the function, right? So JavaScript doesn't care if I call it up here, if I call it down here. It's just as happy to call this function anywhere. And the reason JavaScript does that is because before it actually executes the code, it goes through and it kind of parses it. It looks at everything, makes notes as to what's important, what's not, and then it goes and runs a second time to actually execute. And then it will say, oh, main, I already know about main, it's down here. Other programming languages, if you try and call a function before it's been declared, you'll get an error. JavaScript is not that way, so we actually can get away with having our function called even before we declare it or tell JavaScript what our function is. So let's go ahead and come down here. We're going to do a basic function. So here's our basic function, and what we do as we saw is we declare it by typing function and then the name of the function. So like I said, this is not going to be the best example of why I would want a function, because it's going to look like we're typing a lot more to get the function. But in a really big program, it would actually be very handy. And for another reason that we're going to go in a minute, it will be very handy. So I'm going to call this function roll, and I'm just going to call it roll 20, right? And then we're going to just have that for parameters, but we don't have any parameters. And then we have our function. And in our function, basically, we have this exact same thing. So what the function's going to do once it's called, right now it's not being called, but once it is called, once we say roll 20 and that and there, it will go ahead and run what's in here. And of course that's going to output to the console, and then it's going to exit. So it's kind of the same thing as here. However, we don't have to keep doing this same big long line. Now, if I wanted to do roll 20, say 5 times, I could just do C, Control C, V, whoops, V, and V. And when I run this, you'll see now I get roll 20, roll D20, D20, D20. So no problem there. So we're actually reusing this bit of code multiple times, making it so we don't actually have to have this written out. Now, for our example here, where we have a D100, a D4, and a D12, of course, we would need to have functions for every one of those. So if I hit Control C there, and 1, 2, and 3, I believe. So we would have the D100. We could put that, if we want to have them in order, let's just do that. Do 100 and change this to 100. We'll leave D20. Let's say D12. Rolling a D12. D12. And a 4. A D4. And a 4. So if we want to do the exact same thing as we have here, D20, 100, 24, 12, 20, then all we would have to do here is put those numbers in. So this first one, what was it, 100? No, the second was 100. So 100. And then we did a 20, then we did a 4, then we did a 12, and then we did another D20. So go ahead and Control C and Control V. So basically what we're doing now here with this little tiny bit of code here minus all this is replicating what we have up here. And I'm just going to stick a console log in here just so we have a space. C-O-N-S-O-O. I didn't do N. C-O-N console.log, and we'll just have a space in there like so. So if we run this, clear this out, you'll see that we have this, and then we're running it again. We have D20, D100. So basically what we're seeing here is the exact same thing. Now, where this, even though this is probably more to write up front, where something like this would actually be very handy is if, for example, the person that's having you write this program comes to you and says, you know what, anytime our players roll a d20, I want to give them a bonus of +5. Well, we need to then come in here to every one of our instances of d20, stick this in parentheses so that we can actually I guess that was right. It's kind of just weird. And we could do a +5 here, right? +5, or make it look a little nicer, +5 like that. And we would do that in this one. So we'd have to go through our code, and everywhere that there is a d20, we have to go put a parenthesis at the beginning, and then a +5 between the two parentheses at the end, right? So if we did this one, we have to put the parenthesis right here, and then at the other side of the 1, we need to put a second parenthesis and plus 5. And then our other d20 down here, we need to go ahead and put our parenthesis right here. And after the 1, we need to put another parenthesis, plus, and, oh, I did 1, didn't I? 5, oops, 5, the other 5, like that. And now what we'll see is we can actually get up to 25. It would be impossible for us to get 1 through 5, so our lowest number would be 6, but our highest number would be 25. So if we run this, you'll see on our D20, 19, there's a 25, there's a 7, so we know that's working. However, that was kind of a pain, and if we have literally hundreds of these things, that's a real big pain. So this is where our functions come in and shine a whole lot, because now all I have to do is come in here, put the parenthesis right there, go to the other side of the 1, put our other parenthesis, plus, and 5, oops, not percent, plus 5, and boom, all of these are done. So this is where functions really shine, is if I need to modify code that's repeated throughout, or that normally would be repeated throughout my code base, I can simply do it in one place now. So if we go execute this, now what took us quite a bit of time to actually do here, we did here relatively quickly. And if our boss or whatever came in and said, oh, you know what, I didn't mean 5, I meant 3, all I have to do is come to this one piece of code, hit 3, and boom, I'm done. And now we have plus 3, but here we have to go to everywhere that we have the plus 5 and change that to a 3, change that to a 3, and change that to a 3, and so on and so forth through our entire code. So hopefully this helps you understand why I would want to use a function. We're at 22 minutes. I'm thinking, because we actually have quite a bit more, because this is a very basic intro right now to functions. Functions are way more powerful than this. So I'm thinking I might end this episode here, let you kind of mull it over, and in the next episode we're going to go into more how to get data into a function and get data out of the function. I think we should be able to do both those in one episode. So I'm going to come down here just so I remember. I'm going to put a console log. And we'll go ahead and do that. That way we have just a little extra line right there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. Don't forget to tell other people about the channel. Have them check it out. If they like what they say, they can sub. We grow the channel. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.